How is it going, guys? This is ZB Games, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, as you can probably tell by the fact that I've got my controller up on the screen here. Today I'm going to be showing you how I play Arma 2 DayZ Mod with the controller. Now, this is Arma 2 DayZ, so it's not the standalone, it's not Arma 3, so it's a little bit outdated, but it's still a great experience, and it's probably my favorite way to play DayZ. I don't have the standalone. Everyone says it's unfinished, so I haven't bought it yet, and I haven't gotten around to playing Arma 3 yet, so really this is all I've experienced. But regardless, I just want to let you guys know that a lot of what I'm doing here and a lot of what I'm going to show you I've got from somebody on YouTube. His name on YouTube is Existential Egg. He does a lot of Xpadder stuff, a lot of tutorials on Xpadder. He does great stuff. Go check him out. I'm going to put a link in the description to his channel. Great guy, great content. He does a lot of good stuff on Xpadder. Go check him out if you want any tutorials or anything else like that. On that note, I want to let you guys know right now, this is not necessarily a tutorial. I'm not going to be showing you how to set up Xpadder profiles or how to be doing, things in Xpadder. I'm just going to show you, my setup, how I use it for DayZ, and how to get it how I use it. So first off, I guess there's a couple things you'll need. The Xpadder software, obviously. A controller, an Xbox One, PlayStation 4 controller, it really doesn't matter. This profile will work with either one. And you will need Arma 2. You can get it off of Steam. Preferably the combined operations. You just need Arma 2 and I believe it's Operation Arrowhead, and then the DayZ mod, which you can download off of Steam. So I guess without further ado, let's get started so I can show you how I play DayZ with a controller. Now, I don't have DayZ loaded up right now, but the Arma 2 is... I have the Arma 2 game loaded up right now, not the DayZ mod, but the controls carry over. They're exactly the same as in the mod. Okay, so I guess we'll start off with basic movement. Now, what I did was I bound WASD to the left stick. So obviously you can move around as if you were using the WASD on a keyboard. But something that I did do is if you push the left stick forward slightly, you will walk. And that's because by default the joystick is set to left shift WASD. So left shift is always being held down until I move it past, I think it's like 70%. Then, as you can see up there on the screen where my Xpadder is, my Xpadder controller window is, that it changes to W because it's no longer pressing shift. Now that's done in the advanced section. If you want a tutorial on that, maybe go visit Existential Egg's video or leave a comment. I might be able to help you out if I see it. Now that's basically just all that is. So I can walk if I need to. I can run. Walking is important because you can only fire while walking, so that's a bit important. And well, I guess another important one is the crouch, stand, and prone function. Now this was a little bit complicated to get. Well, I worked for a while before I realized that that was a super easy solution. I was doing a lot of complex stuff in Xpadder trying to get it to work so that, because in Arma 2, stand, as you may know, stand, crouch, and prone are all different buttons. It's X, C, and Z are the three buttons you use for those. So getting them to work all on one button was not easy in Xpadder, but it actually was really easy. Didn't get them all in one button, but more on that later. Basically, it's just B. B will put you in prone. Press it again while you're prone to crouch. And if you hold... Oh, shit, I think I just shot. If you hold the modifier, which is left bumper, more on that later, the modifier, and press B, you will go prone. And from prone, you can go up to crouch, and then stand. So that's how that works. For zoom, for the zoom in function, as you see here, I bound that to the left trigger. So anytime that you're looking around anywhere, you can press the zoom button and you will zoom in. This works when you're aiming down sights as well. Basically, that's all it does, really, is zoom in. Now, for the optics, that is the right stick button. You click in the right stick, and that'll take you to your iron sights, your optics, your scope, or whatever you have equipped. And the reason I did that instead of the left trigger, I mapped that to middle mouse button or right mouse button instead of left trigger, is because if you were to tap left trigger like this, it would take you into iron sights, and it would lock you there. So I don't know, it felt weird. I don't know if that's how you prefer to play, then you can do that yourself, but I'm just sharing with you how I set this up. And for me it works because I prefer having this as just the general zoom in button. I mean, you can still zoom in, and it's technically still like an aim, the left trigger, but if you want to aim down sights, it's right stick. Now, you might have noticed up on the screen that left trigger is bound to J instead of left mouse button, which in Arma 2, left mouse, or I keep saying left mouse button, right mouse button is, if you hold right mouse button in Arma 2, you will zoom in like this, but I changed it. I changed in the settings J to be the zoom function so that I can do this. Because if I had it as left mouse button but right mouse button, it would interfere with that, how I have this whole setup. I'll go over that more in the settings and stuff in detail in a bit. Okay, so also if you click in the left stick, it'll sprint. Just, click it in, it'll sprint. You don't have to be moving it while you sprint, just click it in to sprint. And I've changed the sprint to space. That's why it says space up there in the middle mouse, or the middle click, left stick click button. Okay, I guess D-pad now. Up and down are up and down on the scroll wheel. So the mouse scroll wheel. This is useful for doing things like if you're at a car like this, you can go through the settings pretty quickly, and then since how do you get out of that is you click the right stick, since right stick is right mouse button, and that's how you would get out of that menu. You click that. So that's a little quirk that you gotta know. It's also useful in the menu, which is right on the D-pad. You press right on the D-pad, and that'll bring you to your gear. And as you can see, if you hover your mouse over this section here, you can use the D-pad to scroll up and down quickly, and then just press it again to exit the gear menu. Left on the D-pad is night vision, which is way too bright right now for me to properly show that, but I bound that to night vision. So if you find any night vision, you won't always have night vision in DayZ, but if you do, that'll be useful. You could, I guess, use that for anything else that you want, but I've bound it to that. I guess my camera keeps going out of focus here. Sorry, guys. The back button changes you from first to third person view. I felt comfortable with that because I played a lot of Fallout, and that's what it's bound to in Fallout. So change first and third person. That's all that button does. And pause. The start button is escape, so it'll pause the game and bring up the menu. I guess the face buttons now. I use it as a middle mouse button because it will let you do actions quickly, like when something prompts you like this, so I can just get in there quickly by tapping A without having to go through any settings. So let's see, get out. That's why I bound it to that. It's good for things like getting into gear like this. Oh shit, I think I changed my gun. I didn't. If you see just like a can of food on the floor or something, just tap it with A. It'll pick it up. Or it's useful for closing doors and things like that. That's what I bound it to A. You can change that also. That'll work as something else. It's just something that I prefer. X obviously is to reload. That's going to be to reload. Y, I bound it to the semicolon, or yeah, that's a semicolon, and that's going to be to switch between secondary and primary. So Y is going to swap you between your secondary or primary if you have a secondary equipped. B, I went over that. It's crouch and stand, and that's about it for. Oh, and the right bumper. The right bumper is going to be the Alt button, which is the look function in the game. So if I'm running around, hold the right bumper, and I can move around and look around. No problem. That's fairly simple. Now, and obviously right trigger is to shoot. With the right trigger, character will shoot. Now the left bumper is a modifier. I might have mentioned it earlier. That's something I got from Existential Egg, the left bumper being a modifier, which changes pretty much all of the buttons on the controller except for I believe it's the walk function. Yeah, well, obviously the walk is not going to change if I'm holding the left bumper. And the look function is not going to change. The sprint button is not going to change. And I believe the reload function is not going to change, at least on my setup. You can set it up differently if you want, but I'm just showing you exactly how I use it. So those are the things that don't change: walk, look, and reload, and sprint. And I zoom in, I believe. Yeah, zoom in doesn't change either. And fire. So a couple things don't change. The things that do definitely change are the D-pad, the face buttons, the pause and start button, and the right click. So starting off with the face buttons, I guess, the modifier plus Y is to change between your firing modes. So if you have an automatic weapon, you can change it to burst, semi. If you have grenades, you can switch to those grenades. That's what that does. Modifier, left bumper, plus Y, which is F on the keyboard. That's what that would be in the game on DayZ. If you were just playing with a keyboard, it would be F. Now, I already went over this, but left bumper and B is to go prone. So at any time you want to go prone, you just press left bumper and B. This was useful because I didn't have to add a hold zone in Xpadder for, say, like 0.4 seconds. So if I needed to get down instantly, say I heard a gunshot, I could just drop behind this cover here or anything. I wouldn't have to wait for my hold zone to activate. Left bumper plus A is going to be vault. So that's going to get you over little fences and gates and stuff. Doesn't change X. X is still reload because I felt like that was an important function that I wanted to have access to at all times. Left bumper plus the pause will bring up your map. And then you can zoom in and out with the D-pad since it's a scroll mouse. That'll bring up the map. Just left bumper and pause again to bring it up, or you can actually just press start, escape to leave the map. Left bumper plus I brings up the GPS. I did change that in the settings. I think the GPS in the default control for the GPS was going to be like left control plus M, but that was conflicting with the map button that I have mapped to my start button, so I just changed it to I, and then I went and changed it in the settings of the game settings so that the GPS control to bring up, toggle the GPS is I, so that I can bring up the GPS like this. Now I did change left bumper plus right bumper is going to be caps lock. So you can see it changes. My right bumper there changes from Alt to caps. So when I press both bumpers down at the same time, I can talk to people like in direct chat or global. If your server allows global chat, that's voice chat. So you can talk to people while you're just somewhat convenient. The D-pad, up on the D-pad while holding the left bumper is going to bring out binoculars if you have them equipped in your inventory. So that'll bring out binoculars, and then you just tap it again to put them away. Sorry guys, my camera is not cooperating with me right now. left bumper plus the sides on the D-pad is going to be lean, the lean function in the game. So that works the same as Q and E on the keyboard. Double tap it to lock it in, things like that. Come on, camera. And left bumper plus down is delete, which I rebound delete from in my in-game settings to lower the weapon. Now this one is completely optional. I really had nothing else that I wanted to do, so I just kind of opted for it to be gunned down, kind of because I think it looks cool when you kind of stand around like this with your gun pointed down. And also maybe somebody might be useful, say, oh, hey, I'm friendly, I'm gonna lower my weapon, or I don't know, something like that. You can bind it to whatever you want. That's completely optional, that one. That's just something that I wanted to do personally. Now, something that I did want to show you that is a little bit tricky is, let me get out of DMR here. Is the zoom function on a scoped weapon. So if you have a zoomed button, or a zoomed button, if you have a zoomed weapon that has a scope on it, if you aim down the sights and you have 2 levels of zoom, the way I did that was you hold the left bumper and I had to do a hold zone. So as you can see there, the right click stick says, it's supposed to say NumPad minus, which is the zoom out, but if you hold it, it'll become NumPad plus. So I think the hold zone on that is 0.2 seconds. So if you hold down the right stick for 0.2 seconds, it'll zoom in. And then, well, the DMR is a little bit of a weird situation because it has like a continuous zoom thing that you can do with like the trigger. But like, I remember I was playing with the CZ550, I think it's called, and that just has 2 levels of zoom, and that really comes in handy there. So if you want to, say you're at this point and you want to zoom in, you hold it and it'll zoom in, and then you just click it and it'll zoom out again. It's kind of hard to demonstrate here because I don't have the gun with me. I tried to bring it in with these ammo crates, but I couldn't really find it. I couldn't find which ammo crate it would be in, but that's how I have that set up. And that's about all that I do, or all the buttons that I use for playing DayZ. I have been playing DayZ with it for a couple of weeks now, and I found it fairly useful. I've kind of been tweaking it as I go, saying, oh, I wish I could do this, or it would be really useful if I could do that. So that's how I've been going about this for a couple of weeks now. I've been tweaking it to play as I wanted it to. A lot of the things that I do might not make sense to you. You might say, why did he do that? For instance, the J on the left trigger. But when you're playing the game, things come up and you notice things and you say, hey, I really wish that didn't happen, or I really wish it would work like this. So that's why over time, I've kind of gotten my controller and my scheme to work like this. So hopefully you can appreciate that. If not, a lot of people have different preferences. So yeah, take it as you will. Just kind of wanted to show you how I do things. I guess the next thing that I can do is I can show you my in-game settings, because there are a couple of tweaks that you have to do to your in-game controller settings. I'll just go over them just now so you can see exactly what you need to do to your in-game settings to have your game run exactly the way mine does right now. So okay, now I'm going to show you exactly what I've done in the control settings to get the game running, how I have it running. So I guess I'll just reset everything by clicking default here. Oh, that does some weird things to the mouse settings. I didn't notice that before. I guess the first thing you're going to want to do, I'll try to explain why I do what I do as I go. I guess the first thing you're going to want to do here is change the action fast forward. You're going to want to delete 2 times W, and you're going to want to make that space. And that's going to conflict with something saying that spacebar is being used for something else. Just go find where else it's being used. See, it's used right there, it's commanding mode, and delete that. Now the reason that you should do this is because if I don't know, space is more convenient for sprinting than double tapping W, because especially with a joystick you can accidentally double tap W by moving your joystick in 2 directions. It just doesn't really work well with a controller, so you're definitely going to want to do that. Another function that you're definitely going to want to do is you're going to want to change the walk or run toggle. Where is it? There it is. Walk or run toggle. You're going to want to delete 2 times shift and just leave it as nothing, because how it's set up in Xpadder with the left shift always being active, you're going to definitely run into problems with that. So just go ahead and delete that to make everything, you know, simpler. Another thing you're going to want to do in your settings is find free look here in the commands, or the action free look. Here it is. And you're going to want to delete 2 times left alt. Now this is optional because the right bumper on my controller is set to alt, so I don't like having, like, sometimes I'll accidentally double press it without knowing, and then I'll be locked into free look and I won't be able to turn my character, just his head, and I'll be confused, and then I'll have to realize that I double tapped alt on accident. So it's just go ahead and delete that. Save yourself the headache of trying to figure out what the hell is going on when you can't turn around. Lock or zoom, you're going to change that to J. That's going to be the left trigger function. So that's going to be, where was that at? I've only done this a couple times, so I don't really know where all the things are, so bear with me. Here it is. You don't want to delete this because that's still a useful function. It goes around other buttons of the controller, left mouse button, and also you can still play with the keyboard if you leave that. So just add J. It's going to say J is for the diary, so just go ahead and go find where J is on the diary and just delete it there. And that's for the zoom in function. GPS toggle. You're going to want to go ahead and find GPS toggle, which I think is, where is it? That's right here. See how it's Control M? That was conflicting with how I brought up the map on my controller. So what I did is I delete that and just set that to I. And it's going to say I is set to multiplayer statistics. We'll just go ahead and go down to I, multiplayer statistics, and delete that. That won't really interfere with your game unless you use those buttons frequently, which I never really had a reason to use any of these buttons that I'm deleting. So push to talk. That's gonna be, you're gonna delete push to talk. The reason this is optional, the reason I do this is because I prefer to, you know, hold the left bumper, which is the modifier, and press the right bumper, which is caps. And if you do that, it'll lock it in. So I don't have to be holding both bumpers down to talk. I can just tap it and it'll, you know, lock it. It's like if you double tapped caps lock, which is gonna, you know, keep your voice going. So 2 times caps lock is voice over net. So if you know 2 times caps lock will keep you talking, it'll keep your mic open for everyone to hear. I prefer just having 1 tap, and then when I want to stop talking, you know, you'll have to press the caps lock on your controller again, which is the modifier plus the right bumper. So just, you can do it the other way around, where if you want to hold both bumpers at the same time to talk and then release them to stop talking. But sometimes, you know, you'll run into that issue where you'll double tap it and you accidentally left it open when you didn't mean to. So what I did is I just put this to caps lock. It's going to say it's conflicting with push to talk, and I would just delete push to talk. That's how I did it. You don't have to do it that way. It might be a little bit confusing. It's a little hard to explain without actually demonstrating in game, but that's how I do it. So if that's, you can do it any way you want, but I'm just letting you know how I do it. Now, there are little quirks in the way that I play this game and the way things happen that that there's a few controls that might not make a lot of sense. For instance, I changed turn left. You're going to want to go ahead and find where it says turn left, which I think is right here. Turn left. It's bound to delete. You're going to want to delete that. Press OK. Because I don't know a single person that uses that function. And you're going to want to go find where it says toggle raise weapon. Where's that at? toggle raise weapon, or this is the one that I said was optional. You don't have to bind it to this, but the reason it has to be delete, or it doesn't have to be delete, but the reason I set it as delete is because when I'm playing DayZ and I bring up my map, I like to set waypoints for myself, but then after a while, the way you delete a waypoint is you hover over the waypoint with your cursor and then you press delete. So I don't like just having like my waypoints. I like to be able to delete my waypoints. So what I did is I bound this function will raise and lower your weapon, which is down on the D-pad when you're holding the modifier. It will raise and lower your weapon when you're not in a map, but when you are looking at a map, if you press left bumper and down over your waypoint, it'll delete your waypoint. So it kind of has two functions there. The second function is kind of it's not as important. It's just kind of like a little thing that I've done because you know, it's kind of annoying when you have to drop your controller and go to the keyboard to like delete a waypoint or something. You still have to use the controller for some functions. The controller can't do everything, but you know, I want to minimize the amount of times I have to put my controller down to do something. And I guess another super important one that you're going to want to do is go ahead to where it says up here and press X and just leave it at that. Don't it's going to say it's conflicting with something, which is going to be the crouch function, but just leave it like that. It's going to work fine. And I don't know why the sensitivity is changed here. Okay. Okay. And then you just press OK. Also, if you go in here, it's going to say that if this says click on controllers and go in here and find where it says Xbox or PlayStation, whatever, it'll say controller for Windows. And if it's enabled, you're going to want to disable it because that can conflict with some things that you're trying to do. It'll be conflicting, so just make sure your controllers are disabled. And that's really all there is to it. So once you've done that in the settings, let me just grab my controller here, you should be able to play the game the way that I've just set it up. Now this is open to tweaks. You don't have to leave it like this, obviously. And I've tried to leave this as open as possible. There are a few buttons and a few options that I have set up for, you know, if I want to, for instance, the left bumper and down on the D-pad to raise and lower the weapon. That doesn't necessarily have to be that. I can change that to something else as I see that I need it, but that's what I like to have it as for now. So I guess thanks for watching, guys. If you liked, leave a like. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe to my channel. I've been away from YouTube for a while, but I'm gonna try and come back. I've been a little bit busy, but things are getting easier. So I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace.